Okay. Yeah. Welcome to our podcast and collectibles.com unscripted. We are here with Max the Mandalorian. That's what Max goes by on Instagram. Actually, to be honest, I didn't even get Max's last name, so I'm just going to go with Max. And yeah, we are here today because on Instagram, I noticed Max makes, honestly, this really amazing Star Wars F1-inspired helmets. And I'm a huge fan of Formula One. Not a huge fan of Star Wars, but I know quite a bit about it. And I thought it'd be quite interesting to actually get to know Max as a collector and also what basically inspired him to create these helmets. Because what's important with collecting is actually when you have a intersection of two different brands. And that creates a new, what would the word be? That actually creates a broader collecting market because there's more people that's obviously interested in what the person created. And it's like, for example, if you have an actor that actually signs a baseball card, then you have two very interesting niches coming together. But enough for me. Let's actually hear from Max and see what he really does and how he basically got into it. So yeah, let's get into it, Max.
Yeah, so I've been a Star Wars fan for a long time and a Formula One fan for a long time. Both are things that my dad got me into from a young age, sat me down in front of Star Wars pretty young and also in front of an F1 race pretty young. So my love for both fandoms has existed for a long time, and him as a catalyst for that. And since then, it's been a growing thing. So I've now been able to enjoy it with my friends and my wife as well. We're both fans of all those things. I'd like to say that my wife is now a bit more of a Star Wars fan potentially since then, and it's now almost become a case that she's more of a Star Wars fan than me and has grown beyond that. But she always says that I've got the weird memory for these things. I can't remember a lot of things, but I can remember specific Star Wars story moments and F1 race outcomes. So I started making Star Wars suits about 2022, attended my first Comic-Con in 2022, went as the Mandalorian. And at that time, it was a very crude creation that I'd made. It was my first ever thing that I'd done. And looking back on it now, it's like, oh man, did I really feel good about that? But like, that's how you learn. You create things, you learn over time. So then I ended up upgrading that over time. And whilst I was doing all that, I was still enjoying Formula One. Every single race that would come up, I would watch. And then one day, I love the helmet design. I love Lando's helmet design in general. Yeah. It's just one of the coolest, most unique designs I've seen in a long time. And one day I was just sort of sat at home and I was talking about something with my wife. I was like, wait, Lando, and a light bulb went off in my head, and I immediately ran upstairs and started drawing a concept. And then it wasn't long before the first Mandalorian helmet was made. Not after a few errors and mistakes. Yeah. And a few things that went wrong, which was disappointing. But again, it's the only way to learn. And so now I've made a few of these now. I've done his standard one. I've done the gold one. I would like to do a nighttime version, but I've also then moved on to other drivers as well, including Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, and currently Oscar Piastri is in the works.
And isn't his nighttime version the one with the sparkling little glitters on it? Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. So it's an inverse version of the one that he currently has, where this one is green and black, that one is black with green, and then it's covered in a nice glittery finish. So that'll be really interesting to make. I know the chrome gold one that I worked on for his championship one was really difficult. Chrome is a notoriously hard thing to work with, and in the environment that I'm working in, I live in a flat, a 2-story flat, so I haven't got the resources to have an air gun or a big spray gun here, so I just use rattle cans, it limits me a little bit. Yeah, I know, it limits me a little bit. However, it's been nice to be able to overcome that and show that even with limited resources, you are able to achieve things like this.
Yeah,
like the finish that I achieved on the Hamilton one, which you can see just on top of frame, is one of the best finishes that I've ever achieved, just down to prep, and that's done all with rattle cans.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting. And what drew you to this obviously has to be your love for Star Wars and obviously F1. And when you create these helmets, do you think actually about like the functionality of it? Like how functional are them? Can you wear them basically all day? Is it actually a collectible piece? What do you basically see these helmets as?
So for me, it was more everything that I've always made has always just been about the enjoyment of it. I started out making them for myself. I have sold a few commissions of them, and every single one that I make is slightly unique. So because
Yeah.
of the way that I've only done Lando one so far. I would like to do some more in the future, but up until now, yeah, Lando has been the only one. So I do sell them from time to time, but for me, I only make them because it's fun to make. I actually enjoy
Yeah.
making them, and I've literally just shipped out 2 today, and they were both
Yeah.
entirely unique. They look completely different. So funnily enough, so as you will have likely seen, I recently was very, very lucky to have the helmet that's behind me signed
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
Lando Norris, which was a dream come true. We'll come back to that at some point, I'm sure. However, it did mean that for a recent Comic-Con that I attended, I had to make a new one because I didn't particularly want to take that one out with me. It's currently stored behind me, but at some point it will be going into a sealed box and never leaving it. So I was like, well, god damn, I've got to make another one. And as well, I've got these other commissions. And one of my lovely people that I've commissioned me to make these helmets was like, look, don't worry about sending mine out just yet. Wear the one you've made for me and then send it out whenever it's ready. And so I'm incredibly grateful for that. That was unbelievably kind. So yeah, he will now have that helmet that I wore over the weekend. In terms of wearability, you can wear them for a long amount of time.
Yeah.
I tend to put fans in my helmets if I am going to wear them for a long period of time.
Interesting.
And it's powered by a small battery pack that's in the helmet. It's a tiny like sort of phone USB charger, and I just Velcro it to the inside of that, and then it blows the air. I have one pointing up into the top of my head and then one towards my mouth, so I've constantly got some fresh air moving, and I can tend to wear it for a long time. I think the longest I've worn a helmet for continuously is about 2, maybe 3 hours.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And
So
it
yeah,
does get warm.
yeah, I can imagine so, because I'm not sure how the inside is, but obviously if you have foam and all the other padding, it's going to possibly get quite warm. And we know quite a few Star Wars collectors that actually mainly love collecting Star Wars helmets. Do you see these? Do you basically see this as a similar type of collecting niche for like Star Wars fans, or is this mainly only for like F1? Basically, what did you say the mix is when it comes to collectors?
I think for these things specifically, it's definitely for that crossover audience. And I think the thing that I have found is that the crossover audience tends to be, it's a pretty wide Venn diagram. A lot of people who like Star Wars love F1 in the same way that I grew up with it, so did they. So people often say like, it's my 2 worlds colliding. And for me, that's what this was all about. Two of my biggest loves in life coming together. So for me, the more of these that I can make, the better, because I love having them. I love having them in my house. I love sharing them with people, and people do seem to get enjoyment out of it. This is the one thing that I've been blown away with, and it was never about this, but the enthusiasm that people have shown towards it when I've posted it online or when I've taken it to Comic-Cons and events it's blown me away. I took it to Silverstone with me when I was there with McLaren, and the response to it there was unreal. I just couldn't really believe it, and I think that in itself shows that people's love for crossover fandoms is bigger than ever.
Yeah. And also, for example, you start to learn about the other collecting niche or brand, for example. Like I said, I wasn't a huge Star Wars fan or knowledgeable about Star Wars as basically the normal collector. But because of like, for example, like when I actually saw what you did, I started looking up more about Star Wars and seeing more about the action figures, seeing more about the lightsabers that people collect, the different helmets, all these different things. And it starts, like I said, it starts to actually build one's knowledge, because you become curious. As a human, we're obviously curious, and we decide we're going to obviously start doing more research. That is the one thing that I really like about crossover collectibles. It allows you to actually expand your knowledge for another aspect of collecting. And I'm pretty sure you're obviously making these helmets with a 3D printer, but is it a normal 3D resin printer? What are you basically using?
It's very basic. It's filament fed. It's FDM printing.
Okay.
And then my process is printing that with standard PLA filament and then sanding it and then painting it myself. Resin printing is
Okay.
lovely, but I think just like for me and with the space that we're in, I can't go for a resin printer of that size that could do the whole thing. As much as that would be extremely helpful, I know it'll probably reduce a lot of my prep time and I can pump things out a lot faster. It's just not on the cards for us right now. But I've been very lucky to have a lot of support with the FDM printers from people who follow me on Instagram and also from social media and Reddit. Just very, very good support. There's a lot out there now for people who would like to create things this way
Yeah.
to support you in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I love about the because I used to do 3D printing when it started coming out. And one thing about a resin printer though, it smells bad.
Yeah.
When you're actually using it, it's really bad. And if you have it in enclosed environments, it's really not good with all the toxins and the chemicals and all the other aspects that basically comes to that. But also
No.
the cleaning of a 3D printed resin item, it's the cleaning is also quite another. It's literally another job. But what I'm impressed with is that since you're using a filament printer, like I said, you obviously have to sand it down on the side so you don't see those little lines, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So I've got the process down now to a pretty standard routine now. Every single time I
Yeah.
do it. So I print it normally, and then I have these sheets of varying grits of sandpaper, starting from 100 grit all the way up to 4,000. And so
Wow.
I'll
Okay.
stand it. So I'll stand it with 100, and I'll go up to about 200, and then I'll spray it with this high build putty,
Mhm.
which will fill in the initial gaps. And essentially what I found is that will cut down your sanding time by about half, if not 2/3, is to do it in that
Interesting.
process. So you spray it, yeah. So you sand it with the rough grit, you spray it, and then you can jump up, and then yeah, you'll find yourself at the 2,000s, 3,000s fairly quickly, as opposed to just using the sandpaper, which is why I've been able to achieve good finishes on these products in a smaller frame of time than
Yeah.
some people would. So I would, if anyone's out there looking to do a process, I'd say it's called Motip spray putty, and you
Yeah.
can find it on Amazon. It's not expensive, and it's just a very, very easy way to be able to achieve smoother finishes much faster. Because I think that for me was a really hard part of my initial entrance into 3D printing and making props from 3D printing was the sanding time. It reduced my enjoyment of it. And so being able to find out that way of doing that and reducing the time, because the actual action of it is not too bad. It really isn't. It's just the time. And
Yeah.
you find yourself spending hours just with sandpaper getting into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I found that this is as well. It's a good shape to be able to sand. You can just stand there and you can put your headphones in and just sand away
Yeah.
after a while. Yeah, so it makes life
Yeah.
easier
It's
for
not.
me.
It's not something with a lot of intricate curves or little grooves. But the
No,
what was my pet peeve with printing was when you want to print something very intricate and small, and it's going to take hours on end, and everything's going fine for the first few hours, and then all of a sudden you decide to leave it, and you come back, and the whole thing's completely ruined.
spaghetti.
If
Yeah,
that has to, yeah, basically, yeah, everything's just all squiggled up there in the middle. With your designs, have you, are your designs perfected and your 3D printer set up in a way for that not to happen anymore? Or does that still basically sometimes happen?
it still happens. It's very unlikely that it will ever not happen. I find that just through general use and the environment that you're in can be changing all the time. So so we have a cat and he sheds hair,
Yeah.
and we have found hair in the prints sometimes, and it's just one of those
Oh,
things where
wow.
I've forgotten to print it. I've forgotten to clean the printer. That's
Yeah.
my fault. And so it's one of those times we find with our printer every now and then it will go through some stages of not being able to print. So, for
Yeah.
example, at the moment, I'm currently working on an Agamemnon helmet from the Odyssey for a friend of mine, and the top bits of the helmet printed, no problem. The main helmet itself will not print, and it's one of those things where I thought to myself, do you know what? I'm going to step away for a little bit and do something else. And the last thing that I made is actually this sword that you can see behind me, which I made for my wife, and
Was
that
that
was
3D
a it was a
printed?
yes, this is 3D printed, and it's got a
Wow.
metal rod that runs through the whole thing to provide support for it. So she met the actor of the game character that wields this at the Comic Con we were just at. So that was one. So I decided to take a step away from the helmet, focus on that for her, and then yeah, it's a nice. It's good to have a win. So
Yeah.
otherwise you're constantly battling with the printer and you find you're going nowhere. So that's a very good option to
Yeah.
have. Is something that you can work on to have a good pin.
Yeah. That's actually very interesting, and it's amazing to also see that you doing this. Sorry, you said your wife, right?
Yes,
Yeah, to be doing this with your wife, to be able to share the passion, because it's in like when it comes to collecting, like unfortunately, my wife and I, we don't have the same collecting passion. Her collecting passion are the books over there, a massive library of books, and then some more in the garage. And mine is the small little thing of Pokemon on the top that you can't see on the top there. That's all the space I'm allowed to have for it. But it's that's also what makes things different when you basically get to learn about different collecting niches through your partner. Like I never knew that books can actually be valuable and actually get rare, even the newer ones. It's very
Mm,
interesting. But what actually, this is what I've always been curious by, and because the design the Mandalorian helmet design suits F1 helmet liveries so well. How did
it does.
how did that basically come about? Like, yeah, how did you think of that? Did you see it from someone else and get inspiration? Basically, what made you do that?
I've always loved the helmet designs of F1 drivers because there's a lot of creativity in there and there's a really
Yeah.
big opportunity there for you to be expressive because you can't change the look of the car, although they did apart from special library, but it's not down to you, it's down to them.
Yes.
So when Lando's came out, I was like, that's incredible. And but being perfectly honest, alongside the fact that Lando rhymes with Mando, the design is easy to put onto a helmet. So
Yeah.
the actual execution of this design was the easiest of all because you spray it black, you put the stencils down, you spray it with a fluoro yellow, and then you peel it off, and you've got the design. It's done. Beyond that, it's more just that helmet design that's cool, but I don't want to just put it onto a helmet. I don't want to put it. I don't want to put it onto like a regular helmet. I also don't want to 3D print like a regular looking helmet. These helmets can't be used for that use. They are
Yeah.
plastic. If you had a crash, they would shatter.
Yeah.
It's more always been the fact that I've cosplayed and I've always loved the Mandalorian. It's a nice crossover for me. It's never really been about I don't know how to describe it, but it's more just I thought it'd be a fun idea, and what I liked was that I could bring it to life in a way that I
Yeah.
hope has done both fandoms, both audiences justice.
That's actually a great answer. It's like you said, you can see that there's actually love for both fandoms actually in your design. And that also, since we were also speaking obviously about the helmets being collectible, if you had to, this is basically a question for the future. In the future, what did you basically do to turn these into a collectible that people would actually want to, let's say you are only releasing 10 this month, that people would actually want to buy? And what did you change up about this? Would you add like your own little signature to it? Would you add like a little serial number? What did you do? Because I'm quite curious.
I think the only thing that I probably would do is I'd make a one-off. Maybe I'd do one which combines a few different designs. Try to get some of them signed by other people. Do one for charity potentially. In terms of releasing a full line, it's not something that I would consider that in itself being a collectible. Although that being said, though, like they're not mass produced. I can probably make one a month, and I think total there are 5 Landalorian helmets now in the world, including this one. So I've only done 4 commissions, and I think the thing for me is that this is the only one that's signed, and
Yeah.
it's signed by Lando and Oscar. But in terms of if I was to do one in the future, maybe it'd be a case of I'm designing this one. It's going to be done this way. I'm only doing the one. It's never going to happen again, and maybe do a custom design with it. But yeah, it's not something. Yeah, maybe some. I would prefer to do something like that for charity.
That's
We are
actually
making.
actually quite, yeah, sorry for butting
No,
in.
go. No, you're good. Go for it.
Have you heard of the sculptor Daniel Ashram?
I have, yes.
So like he basically, like, sometimes he makes things mass produced, like he did the eroded Pikachu, and it was technically mass produced, but the only way people were allowed to get them was through Sotheby's auction when they actually got released. But the thing that I like what he does is he does what the old sculptors would do, where they would make the original one That's obviously extremely valuable, but then you're obviously making your molded ones. And then the molded ones are going to obviously have the number from, let's say, 1 to 100. But like you said, the more personal aspect and effort that you're actually putting into it, that actually does add to the basically someone wanting to actually collect these. And if you have someone that's another thing that makes anything collectible really is really the story behind it. If there's a interesting lore behind it, how it actually became, and like, for example, like your signed helmet over there, the story behind that's very interesting. You went to Silverstone, you met Lando, obviously inspiration of the Mandalorian, but then also you have Oscar's signature on there, which probably was a bit awkward for him. I don't know if it was awkward for him. I'd imagine it probably was.
It was an interesting one because we didn't know that we were going to be meeting them that day, and we didn't realize both of them would be there. And they said to us, "Look, you could have one thing signed," and I only had that there. And it was I was like, "Look, I'm not giving up the chance." And he was perfectly gracious about it. He was really intrigued by it and was actually asking where his was. And I said, "Look, it's in the works right now. It's just your helmet design is just not as simple, man. Like it's tough." And so it's been working out how to actually structure that. But he is if anyone is interested about it, they are both the nicest people, and they were both incredibly
Yeah.
interested and appreciative of what I'd made, which is all I could ever ask for. In terms of like the ones that have spawned off from this, I think you are right. The story is a big part of it. And I think that one of the people that commissioned me to make the helmet, the one who said, yes, just wear it to the event, they're getting a completely unique helmet now, because that's one that I would have made and has been out. It's been worn. Essentially, it's a used one that's been worn by the person who made it. And it sounds so big-headed from my side of it, but no one else has got that.
Yes.
So they're only two in existence that have been taken to events is that one and the one that he's got. So that's maybe a nice thing for him to have. His has also got the number 1 on it, which is quite cool.
Yeah.
As a fully updated version.
That's actually, like there's basically nothing no collectible really at an auction will sell for big money if it wasn't for a story. Like a very interesting story is back in the day, a construction worker in America actually decided he's going to put a normal football shirt actually in the ground near a stadium. And he basically caused a big fuss about it. And for some reason, they decided to dig it up and take out the shirt. And then they sent the shirt to auction for charity. And this random shirt, not signed by any player, sold for $150,000 at charity just because of the story behind it. It's basically the biggest prank call in sports history. And if it wasn't for these random stories, no collectible would really be collectible at the end of the day. Like, for example, if you had an interesting story of how hard it was to send, let's say, your Max helmet to him and get it to him and just get it as a gift to him. It's small little things like that basically adds to it, but also the journey of the person that's actually creating it. Because with you're technically let's put it as a modern artist. You're not using clay or anything to sculpt something, but you are using technology. It's not simple to actually, you can't just buy a 3D printer, take it out the box and basically go and do that. And that's not going to basically work. So when it comes to this, do you actually think that this becoming collectible possibly in the future is actually more tied into you as, let's say, an artist, your journey basically as an artist?
I struggle to call myself an artist really, because I didn't come up with the design of the Mandalorian helmet. I didn't come up with Lando's helmet design. These are all things that I have taken that are pre-existing in the world, and I've just applied them in that strange Venn diagram that exists. If people, but what it doesn't take away from is the enjoyment that people seem to get from it. So if we talk about that, then there's clearly a like for it. If people are fans of my work, then absolutely great. If not, that's absolutely fine too. And I guess, if it's important to you, then it has value to you. Really, I wouldn't. Yeah, it's one of those things where like I would never consider it to be a piece of high art or a piece of like very not like low, not high quality, but also like it's tough to describe. Basically, it's like I like it. other people seem to like it, you are then you're more than welcome to enjoy it to whatever level you would like to enjoy it to, whether that's taking a picture from afar or purchasing one from yourself. It's one of those
Yeah.
things. You never know. I've got no idea how much that's going to be worth, how much that signed helmet is going to be worth in the future, because again, it is very niche. So
Yes.
if I had to take a guess, the signed miniature helmet that I've got next to it will be in about 10 years' time worth considerably more than the Mandalorian helmet. But to me, if you said to me you can keep one going forward, in the Mando helmet, it will stay forever, because
No,
that's
that
the one that it's the one that I made. It's the one that got me a better following through social media. It's the one that got me in front of MasterCard and McLaren and Lando,
yeah.
and it's the one that I then got signed. And he saw it, and yes, other people out there may well have a Landalorian helmet, and they may well meet him with it, but I was always the person that had the original one and got it signed. And it sounds so selfish from that perspective, but for me,
Yeah.
it's more that I worked hard on it, and I worked for a long time, had the concept of it, and was very, very fortunate in my life
Yeah.
to be able to say that this has been seen by him.
So what's interesting is, I just actually decided I want to look up what Lando's signature is worth. So if it's on authentic, like on race gear or like a
Yeah.
trading card, it's worth about $3,000. On that little helmet, it's not race gear, but it's racing. It's a racing
Racing
collectible. So
memorabilia.
that would probably yeah, basically it's so that would possibly be like and it's quite a big one as well. So that would be like probably
Yeah.
$1,500, probably a bit more. What's interesting is your Mandalorian helmet. That one's actually interesting because you have a bigger size, you have the whole context of how you actually got the signature, like that story adds value. You have also your proper pictures that's documented the entire thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, that adds so much value. Shit, and it is also like right on the floor. Like that is
Yeah.
actually really cool. It's all these little. That's what's interesting about the value of collectibles. But again, at the end of the day, the collectibles only worth what someone wants to really pay for it.
Exactly
Let
that.
me go
Yeah.
back. But since you're speaking about collectibles, what do you actually collect? Because you obviously didn't start with this by just creating this. Obviously, you have to collect something.
So I started out with Lego. Lego was a big one for me. Started buying a lot of sets. So I fell out of Lego maybe towards as I was going into university, so maybe about 10,
Yeah.
12 years ago, being pushed in towards the it's childish sort of thing. And then when I was living alone in university, I was like, do you know what? No, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy myself a nice Lego set. And then that has then cascaded into quite a lot of Lego in this house. So that was, if I had to sort of pinpoint a real starter point. It's also, again, I come back to my dad. His father would often buy the corgi or the dinky toys and would be like, no, they stay in the box. They are not coming out. And so I always struggle with that. But then now I realized, yep. So I've got quite a few of those upstairs and stored away, which are still incredibly valuable to me. So old memorabilia, and then obviously moving to Lego, moved into buying Star Wars stuff. I have very recently taken up trading card collecting. So just started out with the new F1 series, and that's taken quite a heavy grip on me
Yeah.
already.
The F1 cards are something I want to get into, but they don't sell them,
Mm,
unfortunately, in South Africa, which is really, 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 really annoying because there's like really, I'm a Max fan, and there's like for
yeah.
some reason they really do the background of Max's race suit and the background of the cards really sometimes go well together, especially when you have like a card with like a red foil to it, and then you have
Yes.
Max's race suit. It just looks really nice.
Yeah, they've been very thoughtful on their designs. So like the best one that I found so far is this incredible
That's
Hamilton.
clear. Yeah, that's nice.
It's beautiful, and it's. I mean, that's the thing for me is that I like collecting. I like to have all of them as well. So I am doing my best to try and fill this binder, but also the special
Yeah,
ones are incredible. So I'm like, even on this first page, I'm still missing drivers cards,
yeah,
and I want to try and get them all. But I started at Silverstone this year. I was walking around the fan zone, and Topps, the card manufacturer, had a
yes,
stall there, and they were selling them. And I went and bought. They were handing out just booster packs for free if you
yeah,
signed up to their membership. And so I took one. I was like, oh, that's cool. And I pulled quite a nice card, and I was like, no, this is now a problem. So I went and bought another pack, and then I bought the starter pack, and then I went back the next day, and I was like, oh, can I buy a tin? No, we're fully sold out. I was like, what? How have you sold out already? So then I had to wait. Then I had to wait until the actual release day, which luckily wasn't too far away,
Yeah.
so I wasn't waiting very long. And they're going to have more releases through on. So that's
Yeah.
that's definitely something that's probably my most active collection right now. Is one of those is those cards, and sort of in the sense of buying the packs, trying to find them, trying to make sure I complete the collection. But if I had to say, like, starting from where I was, definitely Lego. Another one I'd say was board games. Like, we absolutely love board games between my wife. So every time we go to a convention, we'll go try out some board games, and so we've got a pretty extensive collection of those now. So it's quite nice to have people around to play those. But yeah, that's
It's
a pretty
actually
cool one.
quite,
But
yeah,
yeah,
that's actually quite interesting. And just to give you a little tip, so on our app, you can actually, when you add your collectibles, you can basically make these things called galleries, which are,
oh,
let's
cool.
call them little like digital showrooms. So let's say you're only collecting, like, you want to, like, break up your trading cards from, let's say, McLaren, Ferrari. Then you can make a gallery for each one, and you can actually track easily how many are still left in that collection. So yeah, you should try that out if you have time.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
I'm actually interested about your Lego, because I wrote a blog post recently about Star Wars Lego and Lego sets, and it's insane how expensive they are now. I remember my friend bought I can't get to what do you call? I'm sorry, you're gonna be so annoyed at me. What you call that big spaceship in Star Wars?
The Star Destroyer
Yeah.
or the
So
Death Star.
I think it's that, not the big circular one, the flat one. That's like the big.
Yeah,
Uh,
the Star.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. So he bought that Lego set. I think it was 2016. No, 2017 or 2018. But he bought that, and that set, when it came out, it was like $1,400. And now I think the sealed is like just under like $10,000 or something. If you have a
Yep.
sealed one, it's
Yeah,
shocking the value of them. But Lego, for some reason, actually really does hold a lot of value. The proper sets.
it does. Yeah. And
The,
there's another one again. Like, I'll always talk about it. My dad, whenever he would go away with work, he would always come back with some Lego. And the one that I distinctly remember is he came back with, for people listening out there, you probably might know it. He came back with Attack of the Clones just come out, and it was Obi-Wan's Starfighter. And I remember it clear as day. It was flat as anything. The cockpit didn't seal properly. It would, like, if you moved it wrong, it would fall to bits. But I remembered it, and I remember ripping open the box the moment it arrived, building it as quickly as possible, and then it ended up in the pile of Lego. And now I think if it was available sealed or even out of the box and built, it'll be worth hundreds, if not thousands. And I think, God, but I was a kid, and
yeah,
you buy things to be enjoyed. And
yeah.
honestly, I got far more enjoyment out of it building it and playing with it than I would if I just kept it in the box. And yeah, I was
It,
5. So what was I going to do, really?
I've had a similar experience. I opened a pack of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, a deck, and I actually actually got a blue-eyed white dragon from it. And if I knew how valuable that card was at the time, I would have never ever traded it to my friend for, I can't remember what that it was. One of those, what's that wizard looking card in Yu-Gi-Oh?
Dark magician.
Yeah. Me at 9 years or 8 years old decided to go and trade it for that. If I did not trade that card, the card would be worth quite a bit now. But then again, if I had
Mm,
the card still, it would be ruined. It would have not been in a sleeve. No one realizes when you are young what you have.
no.
But again, it's also the time when there wasn't much actually on the internet, if you think about
No,
it.
so
Mm,
you're not going to be aware. You only know by word of mouth and going around, and
yes.
also things that it's interesting to find out what becomes a collectible, because you could very easily buy something with the hope that it will be rare and collectible in the future, but that very quickly changes. I think there's a good example.
Yeah.
We come back to Star Wars Lego. They hadn't brought out a set which included the Captain Rex minifigure for, I think it was about nearly 15, maybe even 20 years.
Yeah.
And they brought out a gigantic Lego set. I think it's about 500, 600 pounds here in the UK.
Wow.
And it came with it. And it came with this little minifigure. And so people went
Yeah.
mad and they bought it up. They bought it up trying to get this figure. And then I think it was less than a year later, they brought out a microfighter set for about £10, which had the exact same minifigure in it. So it very
Yeah.
quickly reduced the value of this
Yeah.
minifigure by a long way. And it comes down, I think it comes down to the printing methods and the stylings, different things. So if you look back at the old Star Wars Lego sets, they were all with the yellow faced minifigures.
Yes.
And no matter what it was, you just stick different hair and different looking face on it, but it would still be the same yellow head. Whereas now every single one has an actual skin tone to them. So it's
Yes.
white or it's black or it's brown or anything. So nothing is made the same way as it was then, which is
Yes.
what I think makes those things more valuable. But yeah, I think a fair few people were not particularly happy about that. But then
I
again,
can
it's one of those
imagine.
things where it's like, well, okay, people want to get, but it's if you were one of those people that bought that set and then didn't open it for that reason, I'd imagine you're pretty annoyed.
Yeah, they would be because, like you said, you don't know what's going to be collectible at the end of the day. And when you look at the evolution of Lego, even I don't know if you saw the recent evolution of Squidward from SpongeBob. He's a Lego, yeah, he's a Lego set. Actually, has his head now as
Yeah.
like how his head would be in SpongeBob.
Yeah,
And then
compared to what it was years ago, it was just
yeah,
it's the same color, but it's his face printed on it. Yeah.
yes, and do you remember back in the day, like when you get these little Lego men with the little yellow heads, and then you have to put the stickers on their bodies because a lot of them actually had like nothing on their bodies, and you got the little sticker set that you had to put. The evolution of these items, like I said, is probably what make the older ones so valuable because it was the start of basically that generation going somewhere. Lego, it's a very interesting collectible because like my mother, she's 52 and she collects Lego. But she likes the ones from movies. So like the
Yes.
Harry Potter, the Harry Potter ones, or even from series, she has a Stranger Things one. There's even one from like Up the Movie. She has those. Ghostbusters, like all these little interesting things. And then she also likes the flower sets. I mean, like Lego has these beautiful flower
Yes.
collection sets or whatever, or these
Yeah, we got them
gardens.
over there. Yeah.
Yeah, they're really nice to actually make. But it's yeah, I like the F1 Lego sets. I have a few of those. But it's just what's interesting about Lego is how it actually doesn't matter what age you are. Doesn't matter if you want to actually be known as a collector. If you get into Lego, you just naturally become a collector. The only thing
Yeah.
is that you can't collect money as fast as you can spend it on Lego.
That is very true.
That's it.
Yeah, I was very lucky to pick up the McLaren Technic set, the newest one,
Yeah.
very recently, and that's such an incredible build. I think that it's one of those partnerships which it's so obvious for Lego. Same way as Star Wars was back in the day. It's one of those things where this is the absolute perfect pairing of two things, which is going to combine again two fandoms and
Yes.
create a new level of enjoyment. And they've expanded out now, so you can do the Technic ones, the absolutely massive ones, which are quite intricate and take a lot. You can buy the small Speed Champions ones, which are great for everyone. You can buy the Legends drivers ones, so the Mansell, the Senna, the Schumacher cars. You can buy little tiny ones. They have produced the Lego F1 space so effectively to work with
Yeah.
absolutely every single audience, and that's absolute genius. And they've done the exact same thing with Star Wars, where you can do the tiny sets, the middle size, all the way up to the absolutely massive ones.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where if you find the right partnership with Lego, then there's no end to where it will go, really.
That is true, and it actually reminds me, well, makes me think of Pokemon. When you look at their IP and what they do with so many different brands, it's
Mm,
like I think they probably have just a whole massive building just for partnerships at the
surely,
company because
surely, yeah.
yeah, because the amount of partnerships they are doing is shocking. Like with I think they had one with Walmart. They have the one they had one with the NFL even. Lego. It went on for back in the day. They actually had one with F1, like really, really back in the day. And there was a partnership that actually had F1, it was like in the 90s. So they just have all these, and then there's with Puma as well. It's just continuously going on forever. There was even a time when they had a whole Pokemon plane where inside everything was like themed like Pokemon. There was also actually a Star Wars one as well, that was done. So it's just interesting how what's interesting about these brands and why they become basically, why they grow as a collectibles, that they actually intersect with our everyday lives. And you begin to see them everywhere. You see them on clothes, you see them on TV and movies. And naturally, it just indirectly builds a collector from someone that isn't. Like now, all the young kids are seeing a bunch of people ripping Pokemon packs, and now they want to rip it. But again, it means sometimes not everyone is actually collecting for the right reasons. Some people are just collecting for monetary reasons. Some are collecting for the right ones. Yeah, that's another side. It's not really collecting at the end of the day. It's more of trying to get that payday for those people. But before we sign off, I actually want to ask you, if someone wants to get into what you actually are doing right now with your helmets, what would your advice be? Like if they want to start up, go and buy a 3D printer, what would your advice be for actually doing what you're doing?
So the thing I'd probably say is that look into what is necessary for you. You don't need to go overkill. There's a lot of 3D printer brands out there that are they're designed to give you the world, and you don't need it. You might think you do, but if your purpose is to do something like what I'm doing, just get something that can print smooth and print fast. That's kind of this thing that I would say, because you're going to be finishing it, you're going to be prepping it anyway. For me, there's no necessity right now for a multicolored printer. It's just not
Yeah.
necessary. And I also personally, I think it's quite wasteful. You see the amount of waste that comes off these printers; it's
Yes.
insane. I sand and I paint all of my helmets anyway, so I don't need any of that. So
Yeah.
look into what you want to create, look into what you need to achieve it, and then just go about it that way. Second thing I'd say is don't skip on the prep time. Don't take a shortcut when it comes to prepping your work. I really struggled with this early on in making these helmets and making things for myself. I was always incredibly excited to get the finished product, that sometimes it would be to my own detriment, and
Yeah.
the product wouldn't end as finished as well as I would like, which is why it's always good again to research the methods, like I spoke about earlier. Look into different methods and how is the best way to achieve what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
And the final thing that I would say is have fun with it. And it sounds so cliche and it sounds so dumb, but if, like you said, you're going into it for a monetary reason, you're not going to have fun with it. Do it because you want to do it. It comes back to that old saying, like, what is it? Like, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. But fact is,
Yeah.
if you're doing it for money, if you like it and you can make money off of it, brilliant, absolutely great, because that makes life easier. But it's never really been about that. It's more just for fun of making it. So just
That
have fun,
that reminds me
enjoy it.
that actually sorry, and that actually reminds me about like a lot of the people that make Warhammer figures. Like then, like it's a
Mm,
lot of effort to make those, and then to do the proper painting on it. And many people do it just for the fun of it, the love of it, and
yeah,
they're not worth basically anything. It's if you start wanting, like I said, if you want to start doing that for monetary reason, you're going to really hate making those little action figures and painting it, and because then all you're going to do is you're going to think about what is the dollar value of every little thing you're doing, and
exactly. Yeah, yeah. I
sometimes
think
that
it's one of
dollar
those things
value
that
really isn't there.
yeah. I think it's the only reason you should be doing something is for it to bring you joy. Like if you're making something like this, like if you do it to try and if you do it purely for money, you're not going to enjoy it for very long. You might enjoy it at the start of it, but you'll come to resent it. If you enjoy it, if you make it purely for other people's reactions, you may well get the reaction you want, but the likelihood is that you might be disappointed by not everyone being as enthusiastic as you are. If
Yes,
it means something to you and it genuinely brings you happiness, then that's the only thing that matters. Then that's the
yeah,
way that you should go about it.
that's actually very true. My wife's father actually says the same thing. He says that you should enjoy, like you said, like enjoy something because you actually want to enjoy it. Sometimes something could cost quite a lot of money, but if you are actually enjoying it and it's bringing you happiness and you're young, enjoy it, because he said when you get old, sometimes what you wanted to enjoy when you're younger is now but impossible. Even like just traveling. So you are right. You just need to enjoy things. And if it brings you happiness and it's not harming other people, it's not ruining your relationships with loved ones, then it's a healthy habit. Unless
Yeah.
it's raking up your credit card bills.
Really, really good example of this in the background here. So next to the sword,
Yeah.
you can't see it, but there is an axe that I made.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
I tell you what, I'll get it down. Hold on, just because it provides context to the story. So this is an axe from the
Wow.
video game God of War, and it's a video game that me and my wife.
Oh yes.
It means a lot to us. So when we first started seeing each other, she would come over. I had already played the game and I got to watch her play it as well. So I got to watch someone else enjoy it again. And so we were attending an event in a week's time, and they announced that the full cast of this video game were going to be there. And we didn't have anything for them to sign. And instead of getting a picture signed, I said, no, I want to make an axe and I want them to sign it. So the axe is signed by the 4 main characters in the game. And for context, this was made. Yeah, we're very, very lucky. So for context of what we were talking about just then, I made this axe in a week. It was finished the night before the event. I took it out of the hotel. I took it to the signees table. It was signed and then immediately came home. This has never seen the light of day outside of this place. But we made it just because we wanted them to sign it and we wanted it for something in our home. And
wow,
honestly, the reactions of the people who signed it was more than enough. So, and now it lives on our wall of weapons behind us.
That's actually amazing, because God of War is what my friend and I used to play for hours on end on Fridays and Saturdays at each other's homes. It was just a game back in like 2009, 2010, round about there.
Yeah.
It was so popular. I think it came out, I think it was on PS3 at the time. Was it?
It was.
Yes, yeah. And it was just so popular. But another game before we go, another game that I honestly think needs to be redone exactly as is on PS5 is the first Army of Two. Have you played Army of Two?
Yes, I have, and I've got some friends that cosplay it. And yeah, so the love the love of Army of Two has not gone away. And I think you are right. It does need to come back. But like you said, exactly as it is.
Yes, exactly as is. Because like when you play Army of Two and then because the game was actually made. If you think about it, when you play that game alone, it's boring as hell. Actually, you need to play it with it.
2-player.
Yes. You play 2-player. You and your friend decide, okay, now we're going to go back on back, and then you're going to start blasting people. It's just interesting what games can actually do as well, and also games are now becoming collectible. Physical copies are becoming collectible now, because digital is, you don't own anything that's digital. You don't own the actual IP. You don't own anything. So like even the original limited edition first Halo on Xbox, that thing is very expensive if you have it sealed. So yeah, gaming is another. Basically at the end of the day, everything's collectible. Even feathers. I collect feathers.
Really?
I collect feathers of little doves. And because I love doves,
wow.
little brown. In South Africa, we have these little brown doves. They look like little ringneck doves. I rescued one. One stays here by me, but I collect the feathers of the other ones that's outside. So yeah, I collect feathers. My wife's friend, she also collects feathers. When we go for walks, then a friend picks up the feathers of birds. So yeah, even feathers are collectible to someone that actually cares. But honestly, Max, this was so nice to actually get to speak to you, get to hear how your love for Star Wars happened, what you collect, so your love for F1. If someone wants to have anything commissioned, basically what do they need to do?
Best thing I do is if you want to get something commissioned, reach out, send me a message through my Instagram or through my TikTok, or there's a link to my bios to our Etsy shop. I don't have any active listings for them because I prefer to be able to just talk to you about the designs. And also, the last thing I want is for someone
Yeah.
to reach out and pay for a 2023 Lewis Hamilton Japanese helmet. And I'm like, I can't make that. Like, I can't make that with what I've got. So reach out, have a chat to me. Like, at the moment, I'm chatting to someone about doing a 2010 Hamilton helmet, which is a really, really cool design. And I love that. So yeah, reach out. We'll have a chat. I'm not snobby about it. I much rather hear, and I also just enjoy hearing that people enjoy what I'm producing and making. It's lovely to hear. It makes me happy. So yeah, feel free. Please reach out. Send me a DM.
Awesome. Yeah, maybe we actually get a custom collectibles.com one, because I think it'll actually be quite cool to get one for us and see how we would actually look on one of your helmets. Maybe even
That'd
give
be
it away
cool.
give it away to one of our followers. But overall, this was such a nice chat, Max. It was really good to, like I said, get to understand your background as a collector, see where you're going, just speak about collecting in general. Because that's the thing that we really love about collecting. It really brings people together, and everyone finds common ground somewhere with it, or interest in other things. Like I said, you brought up God of War, and then I brought up Army of Two, and then that's just
Yeah,
how, if we were here for an hour extra, we'd probably be realizing we have so many
still
interests.
talking.
Yeah, and that's what I love about collecting. But again, Max, thanks so much for taking the time to be our guest, and to everyone
Absolute pleasure.
that's
Thank you.
always a pleasure. And for anyone that's going to be watching this, and thanks for watching this. And if you know anyone that you feel should be a guest on our show, hit us up and we'll put them on the show. Again, thanks so much, Max, and thanks for everyone that's watching. Cheers.